Hi and welcome to my talk. I'm Eike Langbehn, Creative Director and co-founder of Curvature Games. And today I will give the talk entitled Mortem, Bending Space Without Bumping into Each Other. This talk is post-mortem about our latest game, Frozen Factory. So Frozen Factory is a virtual reality game, a puzzle game for two players that play together cooperatively in this game. I will show you a short trailer of the game to give you an understanding about the goal and the gameplay in this game.
Penguin workers, welcome to the Frozen Factory ice cream vending machine. You have 15 minutes to make this boiling ice cream.
So as you have seen, it's a very maybe funny cooperative puzzle game. So you work together to create this ice cream for your demanding customer. And let me first introduce the team that made this game. So this is the team of Curvature Games. We're 8 people. We were founded last year, beginning of last year, so we're still a very young company. And Frozen Factory was the first game that we developed together. So it was also pretty challenging because it was the first game, because we never worked together on a game, and we learned a lot when we worked on this, not only because it was our first game, but also because we had some really ambitious design goals for this game. So I will mainly focus on this talk about the innovative interaction techniques that we used in the game, and not so much about on the art design or anything else. So, and for the interaction design, we had the goal that it should be a unique and presence-enhancing player experience, and it should be fun, easy to learn, and family-friendly. Especially family-friendly because our target group are families. So the idea is that a child can play it together with his grandfather. So it must be something that everybody can understand and everybody can learn independent of his or her background. So even if you're not a gamer and not familiar with common interactions in games or common game controllers, you should be able to play the game. So it was really important to make it easy to learn. You should understand the interaction concept within minutes or even seconds. And the game is made for location-based entertainment, so it can be played in family entertainment centers or VR arcades. And also, because of this, it should be easy to learn. Yeah, you go there, you maybe only play 20 minutes with this game, so you don't want to spend like 10 minutes learning how to play it if you only play 20 minutes. So it should really be within seconds to understand how you can interact with things, how the interactions are designed. And of course it should be fun. Yeah, I mean, it's a game. Because we had this easy to learn design approach, we also wanted to make it really simple to start the game or set up the whole setup, set up the whole installation and to really get in the game very soon. So we don't want it to have any wires or tracking stations that need to be calibrated, and we also did not want to have controllers. So we didn't want to give people a controller and needed to explain, hey, button A is for this and button B is for this and the trigger is for this. And yeah, people who are not gamers, who are not familiar with VR or game controllers will ask, what is a trigger and where's button B and so on. And it would take too long to get into the experience. So no controllers, as intuitive as possible, was the goal. So, and this brought up some challenges. So challenging was, well, the alternative is to use hand tracking. So we needed to implement hand tracking and develop interaction techniques that work really good with hand tracking. And it's completely different than with a controller, because it's still not as accurate as with the controllers. You have less possibilities. I will explain this later. And the second challenge was we wanted to use redirected walking. Redirected walking is a locomotion technique that enables you to freely explore an environment by actually walking around with a VR headset. It was mainly developed in academia, in universities, research institutions, but not really used in games so far. There are some demos, some approaches, but it was also pretty new to use this in a game. And also because this comes, the third challenge is connected to this. We wanted to be a co-located experience. So both players, you always play it with two players because it's a cooperative puzzle game. Both players should share the same VR tracking space. And this also made our locomotion approach more complicated, and it came with some more challenges that I will explain later on. Okay, so now I have another video that explains the whole concept behind the game a little bit more. So,
Frozen Factory is a cooperative puzzle game for two co-located players who are both redirected simultaneously to simulate a much larger play area. Players are penguin workers in an ice cream factory. The player's ultimate goal is to produce an ice cream for a demanding customer.
Hey, where's my ice cream?
Both players must complete a series of cooperative tasks against the clock, such as baking a cone or whipping cream. The game is built for standalone VR headsets. The players just need to mount the headset and they are ready to go. No wires, no tracking stations, and in some cases, no controllers are needed. The game can be played entirely with networked hand tracking. Players do not need to know how a game controller works. Instead, they just intuitively use their hands, just like real life. Interactions do not involve complicated gestures. It's just everyday actions, such as pushing, pulling, or touching. One of the most unique things about Frozen Factory is the Locomotion Technique. Instead of using joystick steering or teleportation, the game leverages redirected walking techniques, which guide the players on paths in the virtual world that differ from those in the real world. Both players share a 5 by 3 meter play space. Inside this space, they can roam freely. At certain spots in the game, rotation gains are applied that turn the players around. This way they're facing the play space again. This is seamlessly and deeply integrated into the gameplay and interactions. While the player is concentrating on perhaps filling a cone with ice cream, the world is turned around them. This way the players can explore a virtual environment that is much larger than the play area. Frozen Factory is a fun multiplayer game for two co-located players. We leverage redirected walking techniques to create a unique, easy to learn, presence-enhancing user experience.
okay, as you have seen, we used really pretty easy, and interaction techniques that you know from the real world already. You saw a little bit how this redirected walking approach works, and also that both players share the same VR space, so they are co-located and play together. So let's look in the details a little bit. First, the hand tracking, so in the interactions that we developed for hand tracking. We first experimented with hand tracking. When we started the development of the game, the hand tracking feature of the Oculus Quest was quite new, and we looked into it, what it can. And really soon we decided that we don't want to use like single finger tracking. It was too complicated, and it was still not reliable enough. And it was also like, you could, sometimes single fingers were detected, sometimes not, and it was not really, show what could you do with a single finger tracking. So, and we decided, okay, we just track the position of the hand. And for us it was like quite a good idea, because in our game we had like penguin avatars for the player. So the player plays the penguin. Penguin does not have fingers, he has he has flippers, and so we could just use the tracked hand positions for the position of the flipper, and the penguin player can interact with his flippers. And then we looked into, okay, what can you do if you only have something like a fist, so only a position of your hand. And we found out, it's really fun to push things. So if there are things, that physical objects in the game that you can push like this, it was really fun, and you need to hit a certain target and throw things to a certain target. This was fun. Of course, you can also use simple buttons that you only need to touch. We had other objects where you needed to hit your hands again. I think I have an example of this here. Oh yeah, this is another example. We had the small joystick in front of you that you could push to the left and to the right to steer these drones with ice cream cones in them. So each player could steer one of the drones by just moving this joystick left or right. So we only tracked the hand position and had a collider there in the game, and you could physically collide with everything else. This was the same for the pushing that I just showed, but also for these joystick. They were just physical objects that could be pushed with your hands to left or right. But it's a pretty easy concept, but it's really fun to interact with. But it took us really some time until we get there. Here's another example. We had these things, and you needed to push against these kind of buttons that we had there. Also, it's the same interaction as pressing a button, but it's a little bit something else, and you interact with your hands, and it's also a fun move, and it also looks really fun to watch players doing this in VR. It took us some time until we get there, because in the beginning we also tried to implement grabbing. We thought, okay, players could grab objects with their hands, but we found out after some time that it does not work. It just didn't work. Okay, maybe we experimented with, okay, if you put your hands there, it could just glue to your hands, but how do you throw it again, and how do you remove it again from your hand? We also tried to that you can grab an object like this with both hands, but the physics were really buggy. We had really funny physics bugs with this, so we decided to not to use this, but rely just on these more simple push actions. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the locomotion approach. I already said we are not using any virtual locomotion techniques in the game, so no joystick steering, because we don't even have a controller. Also no teleportation, but we wanted to use redirected walking. This was also one of the main ideas when we started the company, because I also worked in research before on this topic. And redirected walking is a technique that is already quite old. The first paper about this was from 20 years ago. And the idea is that the user is guided on paths in the virtual world that differ from the real world, or the other way around. He's guided on paths in the real world that differ from what you perceive in the virtual environment. So in the virtual environment, you think that you walk straight, but in the real world, you're actually walking on a circular path. And this way, you can explore a much larger environment in the virtual world and actually be in a really confined play space in the real world. There are different concepts behind this, but all of them. Why would you want to do this? There are mainly three reasons. Well, it was shown that actual real walking increases your sense of presence in VR, and it might also reduce VR sickness, at least like it's and uses less sickness than joystick steering, for example, because for joystick steering you have this visual vestibular conflict, and when you really walk you don't have this conflict. And it also gives you better spatial knowledge, like you can better build up a mental map of your environment if you actually explore it by walking than by just steering or teleporting through an environment. This is a demo that shows several different of these redirected walking techniques. So there are different approaches to implement this. In this demo, we had an environment that was 45 square meters, and it was like explorable by a 16, like 4x4 square meters large real world tracking space. There are several techniques implemented here: impossible spaces, rotation gains, and bending gains. Impossible spaces are overlapping rooms that you can see in blue. Then we had a rotation gain where the whole environment is turned around you when you're there, and a bending gain that actually let you walk on a circular path that is even more bent in the real world. You can here see a video of this. So when the user walks along this corridor, the actual room changes. So these are the overlapping rooms. And now at this point, he can grab an object and put it somewhere else. And while he's doing this task, the whole environment is turned around him because his head rotation is amplified. So in the virtual environment, it's a little bit faster than his actual real head rotation. And after he's finished with this task, the whole environment is turned around and he can continue to walk down this corridor that is now inside the play space. And when he's doing this, you can also see the bending gain that is applied here. So while he's walking, the world is rotated a little bit. For Frozen Factory, we decided to only use rotation gains. It was not possible to use this impossible spaces approach because we had two players in the same play space, and both of them, the challenge was that they don't bump into each other. And this is tricky because redirected walking decouples the virtual from the real position. You can stand somewhere and your colleague is standing next to you, but in the real room he could stand on the other side of the room. Also the other way around. In the virtual environment he's pretty far away, but in the real room he's just standing next to you. And so we needed to be really careful where we guide the players in this play space that we had. So here you can see this again, two players. We decided for a play space of 3 by 5 meters that you can see here. And sometimes we had a virtual environment where they could walk around freely together, but at some points we also divided the play space in two parts, as you can see here, one part on the left and one on the right. So it's separated, and then we had these rotation gains where we turn around the environment around them at certain spots. And now, as you can see here, they can walk on. I also have another picture here. On the bottom picture you can see there's a rotation point, and they actually continue to walk on this path, but in the real world they are walking back from where they come and actually standing side by side. And this worked, and the whole walkable area that we had in the game was the green one. So first we had a place where they were together in the 3 by 5 meter space. Then we divided them in the virtual world, but in the real world they were still walking side by side. And in the end, they came together in this last this last bigger area again, and there they could really, there we had again a one-to-one mapping, so that the virtual place was or the virtual position was a real position again. But this also came with an other challenge, like the co-location. Also, it was challenging to really that each player had enough space for his interaction. You can see it here. They needed to really do something like this to hit the buttons, and we needed to make sure that they don't like hurt the other player.